Spidey. You thought after 3 years I'd be done with my Spider-Man 2 Another World content? Well, you're wrong. If you're new to this channel, I made a film called Spider-Man 2 Another World, and it has almost racked up 9 million views. Being an avid, loving storyteller, storytellers are often inspired by the works of other storytellers, and sometimes we also incorporate elements of those stories into our own work, including replicating certain scenes. We obviously get inspired by the films we watch, the people we meet, and just life in general. So, here are some scenes in Spider-Man 2 Another World that was inspired by different mediums.
So while past Joey's trying to figure out inspired scenes for Spider-Man, let's try and figure out how to unbox these, I'm unboxing figures. That was supposed to be the joke. FanHome do figurine collections, and they asked me recently if I wanted to unbox some Marvel movie figurines in my video. Marvel? Movie? Figurines? In? And, oh, okay. Thor? Oh, that is dope. And that's hand painted. It looks so cool. I love it. You are gonna be put on a shelf. Oh, I have more. So we have another one. It's a Hulk. These are some high quality stuff. I'm actually very impressed. So we have Thor, we have Hulk. These are looking dope. This is like the coolest thing. Right, so we've got one last one. I'm very excited because I just like, it has to be Spider-Man. Oh, it is, it's my boy. It's Iron Spider doing his thing. How cool. Look at them all. This is fire. This is fire content. So to wrap this up, FanHome have just sent me these amazing figures. They're amazing. My channel has a unique promo code, so if you want to order this subscription, go on their website, go on my link, and they have a really cool early bird gift where if you sign up ASAP, you get a free Groot. I am Groot, which means sign up now to get your free Groot in Groot's language. And of course, all subscribers will receive these amazing gifts during subscription: the Marvel figure display, the Rocket Raccoon figure, the Marvel movie figurine metal box, and 3 posters. The premium subscribers will also receive these amazing additional figurines during the subscription. That's a whole lot of Iron Man. But God, I bet they do look good in these figurines though. Again, go on the landing page, go check them out. This is really cool stuff, and I would, if you're a Marvel fan like myself, look at the cool stuff. It's just cool stuff. Matt, this FanHome stuff's super cool, and if you enjoy it, go check them out. Okay, right, Joey, back to your thing.
Number 1, Venom versus Spider-Man. So, in Spider-Man 2 Another World, there's an amazing rooftop scene, and still to this day, I'm so proud of how we achieved it, where Venom and Spider-Man are fighting on the rooftop. And there's moments where the crowd are watching Spider-Man and Venom fight, and obviously, in true citizen fashion, they get their phones out and start recording. Obviously, it's very reminiscent of Spider-Man 2, the 2002 version, but this was actually heavily inspired by a different scene in a TV show. So obviously in our film, Spider-Man and Venom are on the rooftop fighting. The scary moment of this is that Venom takes off Spider-Man's mask, which is horrible for Peter Parker because it's like, people are gonna see my identity. And obviously everyone's recording. And the twist of my scene is that everyone respects Spider-Man so much that they lower their phone. And I love that moment. I was so proud when they come up with that moment. In the 90s Spider-Man animation series, where it's the exact same thing. He takes off Spider-Man's mask, literally direct rip-off from that scene. But the difference between mine and their scene is that J. Jonah Jameson has it's such a corny series, I love it so much. J. Jonah Jameson has this like huge camera and he's trying to focus in and it's not focusing. And he ends up missing the reveal. I always thought that was so good. I love that scene so much. I'm so happy with that scene. Honestly, there's a really funny story here. When I was a kid, I wrote Sam Raimi a letter saying this moment needs to be in Spider-Man 3, which was amazing to me because Venom was actually in Spider-Man 3. So I thought he heard me. I thought I was like, oh my God, he was inspired by my letter. He put Venom in. To then learn years later that he hates Venom and it was forced to put it in. But yeah, it was directly inspired by the animated series. Peaches, 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 peaches. Number 2, Peter and the Psychiatrist. So there's a scene which is completely like a shot-by-shot remake of another show that I was watching at the time. In the film, Peter gets diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder from his years of being Spider-Man, his years of just trauma, loss, Eddie losing his mind and stuff like that. And so he gets diagnosed by a doctor. And that whole scene is directly inspired by Sherlock. When I was writing Spider-Man 2 Another World, I was like heavily influenced by the TV shows I was watching. And one of them was the Sherlock TV show with Benedict Cumberbatch, with Benadryl Cumberbatch, Benadryl Cumberbatch, Benadryl, binocular It was completely inspired by a scene in Sherlock where John Holmes is actually talking to a psychiatrist, and I think he's getting diagnosed with something. I don't know if it's post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's something. Really good show. I love that show so much, and that like it was like the whole scene was like shot by shot, left mid close-ups and side profile on both the characters. And usually I wouldn't do that, but I was so heavily influenced by the scene, and I thought it was so good. I was like, I'm going to do that for my film. Number 3. Spider-Man and Madam Web's first meet. Now, if you're familiar with the animated series, which is this film is heavily influenced by, you'll recognize this scene inside out. There's a scene in the film where Peter gives up being Spider-Man and he's walking down the alleyway, and like all this supernatural stuff is happening. There's paper being thrown everywhere. There's wind taking him out. All the trash cans are moving. That was completely inspired by the exact same scene in the Spider-Man animated series. And he sees like leaflets, things being thrown everywhere, purple smoke coming at him, Madam Web appearing out of the wall. I was so heavily influenced by this series. It's amazing. Here's the thing, right? Spider-Man's, I'm not going to say a grounded character, but not a lot of supernatural things happen to him. So in this series, when this like ghostly woman comes out and brings him into the Spider-Verse, it's like the coolest thing ever, because it was so different. And I will always vividly remember that scene being really freaky, because she was saying his name. You know, he got secret identity, like no one's allowed to know his name. So I did that exact same thing for my series. And if you play the two scenes together, they're like very, very close together, right? They're like so similar, it's unreal. It's just, I love that series so much. It was such an influence on my work. So, scene 4. This is a very complicated scene to describe, but basically at the end of Spider-Man to Another World, Peter and Eddie are fighting, and we're diving in the past, the future, the present of their relationship. And you know, it took the whole film to this point for the audience to realise how much they actually mean to each other, how much they've been through together, because we didn't show that at any point in the series. This was all culminated to this moment here. And it was a whole 4-minute montage of their relationship and how they got to where they are. And instead of a physical battle, it was more of like a mental speaking battle. And that was directly inspired by an amazing film that I love so dearly. It's I forgot what it's called. It was heavily inspired by Danny Boyle's Steve Jobs. There's a scene also at the end of the film where two characters are just absolutely destroying each other with words. I got inspired by the music, the tone, the character shifts, the balance between dark and light, the wide shots to show they're separated, and the close shots to show who's in power. It was such a masterpiece of a scene that when I was writing the ending, I was like, this is like the perfect iteration of what I actually need for this film. We wrote a whole series. It was a 7-part series entitled Brock. We were hopefully going to be shooting these 7 episodes while we were shooting Another World, but life gets in the way. It was super hard to do, so all the backstory, all the characterization had to be at the end of this film. I needed to figure out how to accumulate all these 7 episodes into this 4-minute montage. And after watching Steve Jobs, I was so heavily inspired by this scene that I was like, this is it. I need to replicate something exactly like this. I was just so inspired by this film. It's already an amazing film, but that scene just hit a nerve, man. If you haven't seen Steve Jobs, please watch it. Scene 5, Spider-Man's death scene. I've only ever read 3 comics, I think. 1 is The Visions. What a comic that is, amazing. 2 was 1 issue of Spider-Man's death, and the 3rd one was Jupiter Ascending? Can't remember. Obviously, Spider-Man's death captivated all of his superhero fans. It was so beautifully written. It was so stunning on how it captivated our hearts and souls that I had to put that in the future of my Spider-Man story. Obviously in Spider-Man to Another World, the whole film's about his existential crisis of knowing he's gonna die at some point. And being in the future and meeting Miles Morales, I was like, well, I could put this death scene in some sort of flashback scene. This is how we do it. I'm sure everyone here has heard the audiobook on YouTube that I'll get Dom to put the creator name down here and the video. A YouTube creator created a whole film of the comic panel. After I watched that video, I had to go get the comic and read it for myself. I was so heavily inspired by that comic that I literally did the scene shot by shot, word by word, and I tried to replicate that comic perfectly. Having Miles in, having Aunt May, MJ there, I think it perfectly fit what I was trying to tell in my film, and the comic did it perfectly. And it was a copy and paste from the comics, but it's a comic book movie, that's what we do. Talking about that Miles Morales death scene, there was a moment in Spider-Man to Another World where Miles was talking to Peter about the death of Peter, future Peter, and that whole scene was supposed to be filmed exactly like the Brother Bear scene, where Coda tells Kenai that he killed his mum. And I wanted like a drone shot of us talking and Miles telling Peter how he died. That's what I was going to do for that scene, but I never ended up doing it, which is really sad. Scene 6, Big Boy Venom. I've never played the game Web of Shadows, so I don't really know the story. I know there's like a whole choose your destiny kind of game, but I just saw this screenshot of huge 30-foot story Venom, and I was like, well, I need that in the film. The whole point of the Venom in our film is that it transforms to survive, okay? Or it is in a little fishbowl at the start of the film, so it transforms and it grabs arms to get out of the fishbowl, right? And then, you know, it needs arms and legs to walk around. And then it needs a host, and then it needs to turn into someone, so it wraps around the body. And then it can't defeat Spider-Man, who's more powerful, so it becomes a bigger version of a person. And then it can't defeat Spider-Man as the bigger version of the person, so it becomes a 30-foot monster. 30 foot? 30-story Venom in Web of Shadows was like the perfect ending to what I wanted for this Venom. I wanted Venom to constantly transform and get bigger, and for Spider-Man not to be able to physically beat it, but mentally beat it. And that's how Spider-Man does it. And I just thought having that towering over Spider-Man, with Spider-Man knowing there is no way I can defeat this, I have to try something else that's not physical. It was perfect. So yeah, that was completely inspired by Web of Shadows. Now, talking about the mental fight with Venom and Peter, there's a scene in Spider-Man to Another World where we're in this dark void and Peter's shouting at this mysterious figure in the distance, which is, you know, the alien symbiote from his home planet, that it's more of a mental fight now. There's no physical fighting, there's no throwing punches, there's no nothing. It's just talking, and it's, you know, showing that Peter can mentally defeat Venom because he's not alone. He's strong enough to overcome, he's strong enough to say no to it. There's a moment in Spectacular Spider-Man where Spider-Man is saying no to the symbiote, and obviously Uncle Ben comes and, you know, holds him and says, look, I'm with you, you're strong enough. And it was such a perfect way of showing that Uncle Ben's always with him and that Peter is strong enough to say no to the symbiote. When I wrote that scene for Spider-Man to Another World, that whole section and that whole character moment fit perfectly within that scene. So I was like, okay, that's going in. That is the perfect accumulation of this character, Uncle Ben coming back, saying no, and mentally defeating Venom. And last but not least, scene 8 is the ending. From the beginning, all I wanted to do was show, even if Spider-Man succeeded in defeating our bad guy, our main villain, I still wanted to show the aftermath of what it is like being Spider-Man. Yes, congratulations, he saved the world. Yes, he survived. Yes, he saved the people. But as a repercussion of everything of himself, the city is destroyed. Even though he's done great, he could have done better. You know, he wasn't a good guy in Spider-Man to Another World. In moments he was very selfish, and I wanted to show that with the city being destroyed, relationships tearing and such. and that was heavily inspired by Fight Club. I even used the same song. There's a moment in Fight Club where the main character, Tyler Durden, looks upon the city, and the plan that he put in action actually surpassed his expectations. It actually went through, even if he tried to stop it. You see all these buildings fall, all these buildings exploding, and it was just a beautiful scene where they hold hands and just watch it crumble. And I wanted something similar. I wanted a close-up of both Spider-Man and Gwen thinking, okay, this is gonna be good, this is nice. Spider-Man saved the world, Spider-Man saved the city. For it to pan out to show you that he actually technically didn't actually save the city. He could have done better, and the city's crumbling, the relationship's crumbling, and you know, it's not the best end for this film and what it could have been. So I felt like the best way of showing that is what Fight Club did, and that was just to have our characters look out into the vast, broken city. Well, there we go. I'm very sure there was various other scenes and bits of dialogue that was inspired by other films, but they're the big ones that I've thought of at the moment. And now you're asking me, what was the actual point of this video? Wow. It's so fun looking back at these scenes, seeing what I was watching at the time of writing it, and what inspired my reasons for certain moments of the film. At the end of the day, film is an art form that builds upon the ideas and techniques of those who have come before. The act of homage and reference to other films can enhance the viewer experience and also pay tribute to a particular film or director, while adding our own interpretation and personal touch to the scene. However, obviously, don't just copy people's work for the sake of copying people's work. Use these films, comics, games as the starting point for your inspiration. The creative process is a very hard process to bear, and just having moments of inspiration, motivation, even a homage is always nice to have in your films. And there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to have a look at Spider-Man 2 Another World. It's almost on 9 million views. If we can get up to 10 million by the end of the year, that would be amazing. The big 1-0. Don't forget to thumbs up this video if you like this kind of content. Also comment, what's your favorite film? And if you could replicate a moment or be inspired by a moment within that film, which one would it be? And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye. Peaches, peach.